You are standing at the sink. The water is running over the plates, but you do not feel the water. You do not hear the sound it makes hitting the ceramic. You are somewhere else entirely. You are deep inside a conversation that ended 3 days ago, or maybe a confrontation that has never happened. The mind is projecting a scene. It has built the set. It has cast the actors. It has provided the script. And you are completely absorbed in the drama. Your heart is beating slightly faster. Your breathing is shallow. The muscles in the jaw are tight. All of this physical reaction for a ghost, for an image made of nothing. And then, the plate slips slightly against the sponge. There is a small clink of ceramic, and the movie simply vanishes. You are back at the sink. The water is just water. The room is quiet. There is no argument. There is no opponent. There is only the window, the soap, the feeling of standing on the floor. What does that exact second feel like? The second the projector turns off. It feels like waking up with a sudden jolt. It feels a little cold, a little disorienting. There is a strange, quiet shock in noticing the gap, the massive distance between the loud, complicated disaster playing in the head and the absolute stillness of the physical room. Nothing is happening, nothing has been happening. You were just standing there. But for 10 minutes, you lived an entire lifetime of tension, and this is not an isolated event. This is not something that happens once a week. If you really look at it, if you catch it happening, you realize the projector almost never cools down. It plays all day long. It plays while you drive down the highway. You navigate traffic, change lanes, brake for red lights. But the attention is not on the road. The attention is on a trial happening in the mind. A trial where you are the judge, jury, and defense. You are outlining all the ways you were misunderstood. You arrive at the destination, put the car in park, and turn off the engine. And suddenly you realize you have no memory of the last 5 miles. The body drove the car. The eyes saw the road. But you were not there. You were sitting in a dark theater, watching a film about your own life. Notice the texture of these films. They are almost never pleasant. They are rarely peaceful. The mind seems to prefer conflict. It prefers disaster. It prefers rehearsal. It pulls up a memory from childhood and replays it with a new ending. It imagines a phone call you have to make tomorrow and invents different ways it could go wrong. It takes a passing comment from a coworker and spins it into a massive conspiracy. The mind takes one drop of reality and creates an entire ocean of fiction. And you drown in it, without even knowing you are wet, until that sudden, jarring snap, the moment of recognition, the moment you catch the mind in the act. It is a very specific feeling, like catching a thief whose hand is already in the pocket. You do not have to do anything. You do not have to fight the thief. Just looking at them is enough. The moment the movie is seen, it stops. The projector freezes, the screen goes white, and all you are left with is the sudden, stark reality of where you actually are. Sitting in a chair, holding a steering wheel, walking down a hallway. The silence that follows the stopping of the movie is profound. It is almost uncomfortable, because the mind is so used to the noise. It is addicted to the drama. The drama gives a sense of forward motion. The drama makes everything feel urgent and important. But in the sudden quiet of noticing, there is no urgency. There is no emergency to solve. There is just the light hitting the wall. There is just the sound of a distant car passing outside. There is just the steady rhythm of breath moving in and out of the lungs. It feels bare. It feels naked. To simply sit and not be dreaming. To be completely empty of the next scene. And how long does that emptiness last? Usually only a few seconds, because the stillness is unfamiliar. The stillness is unnerving. Before you even realize what is happening, the projector clicks back on, the reel starts spinning, a new scene flickers into view. A thought about how quiet the room is, a thought about how well you are noticing things today, a thought about what needs to be done later. And just like that, you are pulled back into the theater. The room disappears. The physical sensations fade into the background. The dream takes over again. It is an endless loop of sleeping and waking up for a split second, feeling the cold air, seeing the actual world, and then immediately falling back into a heavy, hypnotic sleep, walking around the house, moving the body, but completely dead to the present moment. This is the ordinary condition. This is what passes for normal life. To be surrounded by the actual world, but to only ever interact with a private internal projection, to talk to people, but really only talk to your idea of them. To look at a tree, but only see the word tree in the mind. To notice this happening is not an intellectual exercise. It is not a philosophy to think about. It is a physical, undeniable shock. It is the sudden dropping of the floor beneath your feet. You are sitting at a table with someone you care about. They are speaking. The sound of their voice is vibrating in the air. But you are not listening to them. You are listening to the mind's commentary about them. You are preparing what to say next. You are judging their tone. Then, for a fraction of a second, the commentary drops. The filter collapses. And you just hear the pure sound of their voice. You just see the lines around their eyes. You see them exactly as they are, without the mind's translation. It feels completely different. It feels painfully close. It feels like touching something with bare skin after wearing thick gloves all day. But the gloves go back on very quickly. The mind rushes back in to interpret, to label, to defend. Because the pure, unfiltered reality is too raw. It offers nothing for the mind to chew on. It just is. So the mind provides a distraction. It projects a new movie. It pulls up a grievance. It creates a sudden craving for something sweet. Anything to turn the eyes away from the bareness of reality. Have you noticed how heavy this makes the body? Carrying the weight of 100 invisible scenarios, hauling the past around all day, dragging the future into every room. It is physically exhausting. At the end of the day, you lie in bed, the body is perfectly safe. The room is completely dark, the doors are locked. There is absolutely no threat present, but the mind is running a disaster film. The heart pounds against the mattress, the stomach ties itself into knots. The mind is projecting a future failure, or it is dissecting a conversation from the afternoon, looking for hidden insults. The body is resting in a quiet room, but the organism is living through a war. It can override the actual world completely. It can make the body sweat in a cold room. It can make tears fall over something that has not happened. And when the noticing happens here, in the dark, it is sharp. You suddenly feel the sheets. You feel the weight of the head on the pillow. You look at the dark ceiling and you realize nothing is happening. The crisis is entirely made of air. It is just light and shadow playing on the screen of the mind. You are alone in a dark room. Everything is still. It feels like stepping off a speeding train onto a completely silent platform. The momentum of the train is still shaking your bones, but the platform itself is motionless. This is what it means to catch the mind dreaming. It is not about judging the dream. It is not about trying to forcefully break the projector. Any attempt to fight the movie just creates a new movie about fighting. It is simply the act of seeing it. The quiet, neutral observation that you are not where you thought you were. You thought you were in the argument. You thought you were in the future, but you are just sitting in a chair, just observing the fact that the mind is a machine. A machine that takes everything it touches and turns it into a story. It takes a sensation in the chest and turns it into a story about health. It takes a delayed text message and turns it into a story about abandonment. It never stops spinning. Watch what happens when you have to wait. Standing in a line, sitting in a waiting room. The body comes to a halt. The external world stops demanding immediate attention. This is the perfect opportunity to just be there, to feel the feet on the floor, to see the shape of the room. But the mind cannot tolerate the empty space. It panics at the lack of stimulation, so it reaches for the projector. It loads a random reel, a memory of a television show, a song playing on a loop, a sudden, intense worry about an appliance left turned on. Anything to fill the silence. Anything to keep the attention engaged in the imaginary world. Because if the attention stays in the physical room, if the attention simply rests on what is real, the illusion begins to dissolve. The mind loses its grip. The heavy, serious importance of all those thoughts begins to evaporate, and that feels like a kind of death to the mind. So it fights to keep you dreaming. It makes the dreams more colorful, more terrifying, more urgent. It insists that you must solve this puzzle right now. You must figure out what that person meant. You must prepare for that meeting next week. But when the sudden snap of noticing happens, the urgency vanishes. You see that the puzzle is fake. You see that the urgency was generated by the machine itself. None of it was real, and there is a profound relief in that noticing, a deep, structural relaxing. The jaw drops, the shoulders lower. The breath finally reaches the bottom of the stomach because you realize you do not have to participate. You do not have to fight the ghosts. You do not have to win the argument in the shower. You can just feel the hot water. You can just hold the steering wheel. You can just sit in the waiting room. The movie can keep playing in the background if it wants to, but you are no longer trapped inside the screen. You are sitting in the theater, watching the light flicker. You see it for what it is. Just a series of images, just a sequence of old memories and borrowed fears. It has no solid substance. It has no weight. It only had power because you believed it was real, because you forgot you were watching a movie. This noticing is delicate. It cannot be held by force. If you grip it too tightly, it turns into a thought. It turns into a movie about being very aware. It has to be soft. It has to be as simple as remembering you have a hand, remembering you are breathing, remembering the room. When the attention shifts from the movie to the room, everything changes. The colors of the physical world seem slightly sharper. The sounds are clearer. The endless, draining leakage of energy stops. The organism finally rests, even while walking, even while working. It rests because the mind is no longer simulating 10 different realities at once. The attention is gathered exactly where the body is, but do not expect it to stay. The habit of dreaming is old. It is deep in the bone. The projector will turn on again. You will find yourself halfway down a completely different road. You will be deep in a new script, feeling the familiar tension, believing the familiar fears. And then, eventually, the snap will happen again. A sudden, quiet recognition, a gap in the clouds. You will notice the hands. You will notice the light. You will hear the actual sound of the room, and the movie will pause, leaving you exactly where you have always been, sitting quietly. Right here. The room is still, but then the outside world knocks on the door. It could be a notification on a screen, a change in someone's tone of voice. Let us look closely at a single moment. You send a message to someone. Hours pass, there is no reply. Notice exactly what happens inside the body. It does not begin as a thought. It begins as a physical sensation. A very slight, almost imperceptible tightening in the stomach. A change in the rhythm of the breath. The machinery of the mind has been triggered. It has received an impression from the outside world, an empty space where a reply should be. And the mind cannot tolerate an empty space. So it goes to work. It opens the heavy filing cabinets of the past. It pulls out old memories of being ignored. It pulls out old fears of not being important. It takes the simple, neutral fact of silence and runs it through a thick, dark filter. Like looking at the world through a piece of colored glass, the glass twists the light. It warps the shape of reality. Suddenly, the silence is no longer just silence. It is a threat. It is a rejection. The body reacts to this twisted light as if it were a physical attack. The heart beats a little faster. The jaw clenches. Usually when this happens, you are instantly swallowed by the reaction. You become the tight chest. You become the feeling of rejection. You dive headfirst into the colored glass and believe that the whole world looks that way. You begin to craft a response in the head. You imagine an argument. You ride the heavy, swinging motion of the mind, swinging wildly between anger and anxiety, between wanting to demand an answer and wanting to hide. This is the trap. This is how the heavy, mechanical parts of the mind consume the attention. They take the energy of awareness and use it to feed themselves. But what if something else is possible? What if you do not have to become the reaction? What does it look like to simply watch the machinery turn without getting caught in the gears? It starts with a very subtle division, a quiet splitting of the internal world. There is the feeling of heat in the chest, and there is a silent space that is simply aware of the heat. There is the frantic spinning of thoughts, and there is something else, something still, just watching the thoughts spin, like sitting in the audience of a dark theater, watching an actor walk onto the stage. The actor is the anger. The actor is the fear. The actor is performing a highly emotional scene, pacing back and forth, waving their arms, demanding attention. But you are in the seats. You are not on the stage. You are just watching the performance. This is not a passive experience. It requires a tremendous, quiet effort. Because the actor on the stage is very convincing. The actor wants you to stand up, climb onto the stage, and join the drama. The sensation in the body pulls at the attention. It screams that it is urgent. It insists that you must do something right now. You must send another message. You must resolve the tension. You must defend yourself against this invisible threat. But you just sit there, you feel the sharp edge of the anxiety. You do not push it away. Pushing it away is just stepping onto the stage in a different costume. Fighting the reaction is just another reaction. You simply allow the feeling to be exactly what it is. A temporary movement of energy, a passing storm of sensation. It is hot, it is uncomfortable, but it is not you. It is just something happening inside the room of the body. Watch how the mind swings back and forth. It craves resolution. It wants to fix the problem. And when it cannot fix the problem, it wants to escape. It wants to distract itself. It wants to look at a screen, or eat something sweet, or complain to a friend. Anything to stop feeling the raw, uncomfortable heat of the unresolved reaction. But you do not let it escape. You keep the attention exactly where the discomfort is. You hold the feeling in a wide, clear space of observation. You notice the texture of the anger. You notice the exact location of the tightness in the throat. You watch it rise. And because you are not feeding it with new arguments, because you are not adding wood to the fire, something strange begins to happen. The fire begins to burn itself out. The actor on the stage begins to lose their energy. The heavy, dark filter over the lens begins to thin. You realize that the feeling is not permanent, it is just a wave. It rises, it peaks, and it passes away. Why become entirely consumed by something that is already leaving? Why surrender reality to a passing shadow? Let us look at another moment. You are having a conversation. The other person says something slightly critical. It is a small comment, maybe a joke about how you always do things a certain way. Instantly, the pride rears up. A sudden flash of defensive heat. The mind immediately begins gathering evidence to prove them wrong. It prepares a counterattack. It wants to strike back, to protect the image it has built. Notice the physical sensation of pride. It feels rigid. It feels like a thick wall going up behind the eyes. In the past, you would have spoken from behind that wall. You would have snapped back with a sarcastic comment, or you would have swallowed the anger, letting it turn into cold resentment. Both are ways of being captured. Both are ways of becoming the reaction. But this time, the quiet observer is awake. You feel the wall go up. You feel the heat of the wounded pride. And you just look at it. You do not speak. You just let the heat burn inside the chest. You watch the mind desperately wanting to defend itself. You watch the desperate need to be right, to be respected, to be seen a certain way. And you realize none of those desires have any real substance. They are just old formations, old bottles of colored glass, left over from 1,000 past interactions. The person standing in front of you did not put them there. They only knocked against them. They only made the glass ring. To watch this happen is to stand in a deeply unsettling stillness. It goes against every mechanical instinct in the body. The machinery is designed to react. It is designed to interpret, to judge, to defend, to attack. And when you refuse to pull the levers, when you refuse to turn the gears, the machinery begins to shake. It feels terrifying at first. Because you are dropping the armor, you are standing completely exposed, letting the words pass through you without catching them, letting the feeling of being misunderstood sit in the stomach without trying to fix it. But as you hold this difficult, silent space, the shaking stops. The rigid wall of pride suddenly feels very thin. It feels hollow. It was only strong because it was believed. It was only heavy because it was being carried. When it's just observed, it becomes light. It becomes transparent. You can see right through it. And what do you see on the other side? You see the person standing in front of you. You see them clearly. Not through the dark glass of injured pride, not as an enemy, just as a human being. Perhaps they are having a bad day. Perhaps they are trapped in their own colored glass. Perhaps their joke had nothing to do with you at all. When the internal reaction is observed without interference, the outside world becomes incredibly clear. The distortion fades. The noise in the head settles, not because it was forced to be quiet. You cannot force the mind into silence. Trying to force the mind to stop thinking is like trying to flatten water with your hands. You only create more waves. You only create a new struggle. The quiet does not come from fighting. The quiet comes from simply ceasing to feed the noise. It comes from stepping out of the factory and letting the machines slowly grind to a halt on their own. This takes a very specific kind of endurance. The endurance to do absolutely nothing while the body screams to act. Think of a time when a deep, sudden embarrassment occurs. A mistake made in public, a clumsy word. The physical sensation is overwhelming. The face flushes hot. The stomach drops into an endless pit. The mind immediately wants to run. It replays the moment over and over, twisting the knife. It projects the judgment of everyone in the room. It begs the ground to open up. To watch this reaction without getting caught inside it is to simply burn in the fire. You feel the heat in the cheeks. You feel the sickening drop in the stomach. But you do not run. You do not hide. You do not mentally apologize to ghosts. You just sit in the center of the embarrassment. You watch the mind projecting images of disaster, You watch it creating a terrible, humiliating future. And you recognize it is just a movie, a highly unpleasant movie. But still, just a movie. The people around the room have already moved on. They are already trapped back in their own private theaters. The only place the embarrassment still exists is inside your own machinery. And if it is just watched, if it is allowed to play without hiding the eyes, the film eventually runs out, the reel goes empty. The heat in the face slowly cools. The stomach returns to its normal resting place, and you are still here. The illusion of the disaster simply evaporated. This practice of dividing the attention, of being both the observer and the space where things happen, it begins to fundamentally change the texture of a day. Instead of walking blindly from one emotional collision to the next, you begin to walk through the world with a sense of immense space. Reactions still happen, the machinery is old, and it takes a long time to dismantle. Anger still flares up. Fear still tightens the chest. Desire still reaches out for things it does not need. But they are no longer in control. They are like sudden storms blowing through a wide, open valley. The storms are loud, the rain is cold. But the valley does not try to stop the rain, the valley does not argue with the wind. It simply holds the space for the storm to pass. And eventually, the clouds always break because no reaction is permanent. Every single emotional state ever experienced has passed away. The deepest grief, the sharpest anger, the most desperate craving. They all rose and they all fell. So why grip them so tightly while they are here? Why build a house out of passing clouds? The next time the chest tightens, the next time the breath goes shallow, before the mouth opens, before the hands move, just pause. Just let the attention slip backward, away from the screen and into the seats. Watch the tight chest, feel the shallow breath. Look at the colored glass. Do not try to fix it. Do not try to heal it. Just bear the discomfort of being awake inside it. Watch the energy rise, watch it reach its peak, and then just watch it fall away, leaving the space quiet, leaving the room empty, leaving things exactly as they are. You find a quiet corner of the room. You sit down, you fold the legs and straighten the spine. The eyes are closed, the hands are resting in the lap. The intention is very simple. You have set aside this time to be still. You have decided to stop moving, to stop doing, and to just be here. You take a deep breath. You wait for the peace to arrive, but the peace does not arrive. Instead, a riot begins. The moment the body stops moving, the mind becomes deafeningly loud. It is as if a cage door has been left open. 100 different voices rush out at once. A sudden memory of an awkward conversation from 5 years ago. A sharp, panicked thought about a bill that needs to be paid. A song lyric playing on an endless loop. A profound itch on the side of the nose. The physical room is completely silent. But inside, it is a crowded room with everyone shouting. This is the reality of sitting down to meditate. It is not an immediate descent into calm. It is a sudden, shocking collision with the sheer volume of internal noise. And so, the instinct is to fight it. You remember the goal? The goal is silence, so you try to enforce it. You try to build a mental wall against the thoughts. When a memory arises, you aggressively push it away. When a worry appears, you try to crush it. You command the mind to stop. You grip the attention. You lock it onto the rhythm of the breath like a vice. You hold the focus so tightly that the muscles in the face begin to strain, the jaw clenches. The shoulders creep slowly up toward the ears. You are sitting perfectly still on the outside, but inside, you are in a wrestling match. You are trying to pin the mind to the floor. You are trying to force the water to be flat by hitting it with a heavy board. Notice the texture of this effort. It is violent. It is exhausting. And the harder you push, the harder the mind pushes back. If you try to block a thought, it multiplies. If you demand silence, the mind screams just to prove it is still there. It throws up more urgent distractions. It creates a sudden ache in the knee. It insists that you forgot to lock the front door. It tells you that this is a waste of time. It tells you that you are failing. And the frustration begins to build. The breath becomes shallow and rigid. The chest feels tight. This is not peace. This is just a new kind of war. A war between the desire for silence and the reality of the noise. Look very closely at this struggle. Look at the part of you that is demanding the silence. The voice that says, stop thinking. The voice that says, focus on the breath. The voice that says, you are doing this wrong. What are those voices? They are just more thoughts. They are just new additions to the noise. You are trying to stop the mind by using the mind. You have appointed a guard to stand at the door and shout at the crowd to be quiet. But the guard is just making more noise. The effort to force the silence is the very thing destroying it. Force is a friction, and friction only creates more heat. So, what happens if the guard walks away? What happens if you completely drop the weapons? Not abandoning the practice, not getting up and walking away, but giving up the fight. You are still sitting there. The spine is still straight, but you stop trying to control what happens next. A thought about the future arrives. It is loud. It demands to be solved. But you do not solve it, and you do not push it away. You simply let it enter the room. You watch it hover there, vibrating with urgent energy. You feel the pull it has on the body. You feel the slight tightening in the stomach that accompanies the worry. But you just observe it. You just see it as a shape of energy passing through the space. And because you do not fight it, and because you do not follow it down its dark hallway, a very strange thing happens. The thought runs out of momentum. It flashes brightly for a moment, and then it simply dissolves. It falls away on its own. Then a memory arrives. An old argument, a feeling of deep unfairness. The heat of it flares up in the chest. The mind desperately wants to rewind the memory and change the ending. It wants to supply the perfect response. The pull to participate is enormous, but the attention remains unmoving. You do not step into the memory. You do not argue with the ghost. You simply feel the heat in the chest. You watch the mind generating the images. You see it all happening, but you remain entirely passive to it. You are just the empty space in which the memory is occurring, and without your active participation, the memory cannot sustain itself. It is like a fire that has run out of wood. It flickers, it shrinks, it turns to smoke, and then it is gone. This is the turning point. This is the subtle shift from trying to control the mind to simply activating the awareness. The noise in the head is driven by interaction. The mind is a machine that requires constant fuel. Every time you judge a thought, you are feeding the machine. Every time you try to suppress a feeling, you are feeding the machine. Every time you get frustrated by the lack of silence, you are pouring gasoline on the fire. The mind thrives on conflict. It survives by keeping you engaged in the struggle. But when you offer absolutely no resistance, when you offer no judgment, no analysis, and no force, the machine begins to starve. Imagine a deep, wide lake. For years, heavy stones have been thrown into this lake, one after another. The surface is a chaos of crashing waves. The water is thick with mud and churning sand. You cannot force this lake to be calm. If you jump in and try to hold the waves down with your hands, you only make more waves. If you try to scoop the mud out, you only stir it up further. The only way the lake becomes clear is if you simply stop throwing stones. You just sit on the shore. You let the waves crash. You let the mud swirl. You do absolutely nothing to interfere with the water. And slowly, very slowly, the laws of gravity take over. The heavy silt begins to sink. The sand drifts down to the floor. The violent crashing on the surface stretches out into long, rolling ripples. And eventually, the ripples smooth out into glass. The water clears, not because it was forced into submission, but because it was finally left alone. This is what begins to happen in the dark room of meditation. As you sit, completely refusing to interfere with the thoughts, the stones stop falling. The heavy random impressions from the outside world are no longer being thrown into the water. The mental formations that have been spinning for hours begin to slow their rotation. The physical body begins to register this lack of conflict. The rigid grip on the breath naturally loosens. The jaw softens on its own. The shoulders drop a fraction of an inch. The breathing deepens, not because you are controlling it, but because the panic has subsided. You are no longer treating your own mind as an enemy. You are simply a witness. And as the witnessing deepens, the gaps between the thoughts begin to widen. At first, the gap is only a fraction of a second, a tiny sliver of empty space between a fading memory and a rising worry. But in that fraction of a second, there is a distinct, undeniable taste of relief. It tastes cool. It feels incredibly light. It is a momentary dropping of a massive weight you did not know you were carrying. Then the next thought arises, and the gap closes. But the attention remains steady. You watch this new thought with the same profound disinterest. You let it peak, you let it fall, and the gap appears again. This time, it lasts a full second of complete, unforced silence. The mind is entirely passive, but the awareness is razor sharp. This is a crucial distinction. The quiet mind is not a dead mind. It is not a blank, heavy sleep. When the forced struggle ends and the natural settling occurs, the perception becomes incredibly vivid. You are not lost in a trance. You are more awake than you have been all day. You can hear the exact frequency of the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. You can feel the precise temperature of the air resting against the skin of the hands. You can sense the microscopic movements of the chest rising and falling. But none of these sensations trigger a story. The air does not become a complaint about the heating bill. The sensations are just pure, bare data. They enter the awareness, they are fully known, and they pass away, leaving no footprint, leaving no echo. There is no one inside narrating the experience. The commentator has put down the microphone. The translator has left the room. There is just the raw, unfiltered reality of sitting on the floor, and it is vast. It feels endlessly spacious. When the heavy, chaotic filter of the mind becomes transparent, the boundaries of the room seem to soften. The hard edge between the body and the air begins to blur. Because the thing that was maintaining those boundaries, the constant grinding machinery of thought, has gone quiet. How long does this take? How many minutes of sitting in the noise before the sediment falls to the floor? It cannot be measured. It cannot be scheduled. The moment you look at the clock, the moment you wonder how much longer it will take, you have thrown another stone into the lake. You have introduced a new desire, a desire for progress, a desire for achievement, and the mud instantly swirls back up. The silence must be allowed to arrive on its own completely unpredictable schedule. It is like waiting for a wild bird to land on your hand. You cannot grab it. You cannot lure it with sudden movements. You can only hold the hand perfectly still. You can only become a safe, quiet space. And eventually, When the environment is completely free of threat, the bird lands. The mind settles. The frantic, desperate need to be somewhere else, to be someone else, to solve the next puzzle, simply evaporates. You realize that there are no puzzles in this room. There are no emergencies on this cushion. All of the emergencies were being projected on the inside of the eyelids. All of the crises were made of thin air and old memories. And now, the projector is resting. The film has run out. The theater is empty. You are just a living organism breathing in a quiet space. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be arranged. The deep structural exhaustion of being a human being begins to unwind. It unwinds in the quiet, not a forced, artificial quiet built out of tension and discipline, but a natural, inevitable quiet. The quiet that is always there underneath the noise. The silence that was never actually broken, only temporarily drowned out. You feel the weight of the body pressing into the floor. You feel the effortless rhythm of the lungs. You watch the occasional stray thought drift through the vast space of the mind like a solitary cloud in a massive sky. It does not obscure the light. It does not demand attention. It just floats by. And you remain perfectly still, perfectly awake, needing nothing, waiting for nothing, just observing what is real. You walk into a room you have entered 1,000 times before. It is your living room or your kitchen or your bedroom. Normally, you do not really see it. You see your memory of it. You see the chore you have to do later. You see the object out of place. You see a space entirely defined by what it means to you, by what you want from it or what you fear about it. But right now, the machinery has stopped. The heavy, grinding wheel of interpretation has gone completely still. The voice in the head that narrates every single moment has vanished. What is left? Look at the light falling across the floor. Usually, the mind would instantly label it. It would say, it is getting late. It would say, the windows need to be washed. But without the label, without the translator standing between you and the room, the light is just light. It is a bright, silent geometry resting on the wood. It has no meaning. It carries no demand. It is overwhelmingly vivid. The colors of the room suddenly seem impossibly rich. The shadows are deep and precise. It is as if you have been looking at the world through a thick, dirty pane of glass your entire life. A glass covered in decades of dust, covered in old opinions, old injuries, and borrowed beliefs. And suddenly the glass shatters. There is nothing between you and the room. The air touches the eyes directly. Notice the physical sensation of this bareness. There is no tension behind the forehead. The familiar, subtle headache of constantly bracing against the world is gone. The jaw is completely slack. The shoulders are resting exactly where gravity places them, because there is no invisible armor to hold up. The armor is made of thoughts. It is made of the desperate need to defend a shape, to protect an identity. When the thoughts stop, the armor simply evaporates, and you are left standing there completely exposed to the moment. It is a stark, almost shocking nakedness, but there is no fear in it. Fear requires a story about the future. Fear requires the mind to project an image of something going wrong. But the projector is unplugged. There is no future in this room. There is no tomorrow. There is not even the next 10 seconds. There is only the exact immediate fraction of this specific breath. The air moves through the nose. The chest expands. You feel the profound, intricate mechanics of the lungs filling with oxygen. You feel it as pure sensation, untranslated into words. It is a vast, silent intelligence operating on its own. You look at an object on the table, a ceramic cup. The word cup does not arise. The memory of drinking from it does not arise. It is stripped of all human utility. It is just a curved shape of hardened earth. Resting quietly in the space, it feels incredibly close. When the filters are gone, the distance between the observer and the observed collapses. You are not a separate entity standing far away, judging the object. The perception of the cup and the existence of the cup are happening in the exact same silent field. There is a strange, quiet intimacy to everything. Walk toward the door. Feel the foot make contact with the floor. Usually, walking is just a way to get somewhere else. The body moves, but the attention is already at the destination. You are rushing toward the next scene in the movie. But with the movie stopped, there is nowhere to arrive. Every single step is a complete event. The pressure of the heel, the shifting of the weight, the subtle balancing of the muscles. It is all felt with microscopic clarity. It is as if you are inhabiting the body for the very first time. Like an astronaut stepping onto a completely unknown planet, everything is new. Nothing is taken for granted, because the mechanism that takes things for granted, the habit-forming, categorizing mind, is silent. Open the door and step outside. The air hits the skin. It is cold, but the mind does not complain about the cold. It does not wish for summer. It does not build a story about being uncomfortable. The cold is simply a physical fact. It is a sharp, clean texture vibrating against the nerves. It is fully experienced and completely accepted. Listen to the sound of the street. A car engine in the distance, a dog barking, the wind moving through the branches of a tree. Normally, the mind would filter this noise. It would decide the car is annoying. It would wonder whose dog is barking. It would slice the audio of the world into good sounds and bad sounds. But in this absolute stillness, there is no slicing. All the sounds enter the ear at the exact same level. They blend together into one continuous, shifting wave. A symphony of ordinary reality. And the space that receives these sounds is entirely empty. It has no borders. It has no center. When the inner narrator goes quiet, the sense of being a solid, isolated person inside the head begins to dissolve. Where is the boundary of the self when there is no thought to define it? Is the self the skin? But you can feel the wind. Is the self the eyes? But the sky is flooding into them. There is just an open, receiving awareness, a vast, clear mirror reflecting whatever passes in front of it. A bird flies across the sky. The mirror reflects the bird. The mirror does not try to hold on to the bird. The mirror does not grieve when the bird is gone. It simply reflects the empty sky egg, and this is what is left. A perception so clean, it leaves no trace. Look at another human being, someone walking past you on the sidewalk, or someone standing in the same room. This is where the heavy machinery usually works the hardest. The mind instantly measures them. It judges their clothing. It decides if they are a threat, an equal, or an inferior. It pulls up every memory you have of them, every past conflict, every old assumption. You rarely see a person. You see a walking pile of your own psychological debris. But watch what happens when all of that drops away. When the judgment stops, when the history is set aside, you look at their face. You just see the lines around their mouth. You see the exact color of their eyes. You see the way the chest rises and falls as they breathe. You see another living organism experiencing the exact same mysterious existence you are. It is a profound, shattering recognition. Without the barrier of the false self, there is no separation. There is no you over here, defending yourself against them over there. There is just life, looking at life. There is a deep, unforced compassion in this seeing, not a sentimental emotion. not a manufactured pity, just the quiet, brutal truth of shared reality. They are carrying their own heavy mask. They are trapped in their own theater, fighting their own invisible ghosts. You can see the tension in their neck. You can see the exhaustion in their posture. You do not need to fix them. You do not need to change them. You simply see them completely and totally, without adding a single word to the image. This level of perception feels heavy at first. It feels almost too real. We are so used to the numbing comfort of our fantasies. The daydreams buffer us from the raw impact of existing. To drop the buffer is to feel the full weight of being alive. But very quickly, the heaviness turns into an immense, soaring lightness. Because you realize you are no longer carrying the world. You are no longer responsible for interpreting every single event. You do not have to have an opinion about the clouds. You do not have to have a theory about the dust settling on the floor. You are entirely relieved of duty. The exhausting, relentless job of being a personality is suspended. The false identity has clocked out, and the silent observer simply rests. Notice how the perception of time alters in this state. Usually, time feels like a rushing river, constantly pushing you forward. There is never enough of it. You are always running late for the next moment. But when the dreaming stops, time stops. There is no rush. There is no impending deadline. There is only a deep, spreading pool of now. You can look at the texture of a wooden table for 10 minutes, and it feels like a single second. Because nothing is happening except the looking. There is no internal progress to track. There is no narrative moving forward. The immense pressure to become something, to achieve something, to arrive somewhere. It all requires a story. It all requires a projected movie about a future self. When the movie is shut off, you are already here. You have always been here. You realize that every desperate search for peace was just another hallucination. You were frantically digging for water while standing in the middle of a lake. The peace was never going to be found in the next scene of the movie. The peace was the screen itself. The blank, silent space behind the flickering images. What does it feel like to rest in that blank space? It feels like a deep, structural unwinding. A letting go that goes down into the bone marrow. You do not have to hold yourself together anymore because you finally see that the thing you were trying to hold together was never real. It was just a collection of old reactions, a bundle of inherited fears and borrowed desires. It was a ghost haunting its own house. And now, the ghost is resting. The house is empty. The windows are open. The breeze is blowing straight through. There is no resistance to anything. If a sharp sound occurs, the ear hears it. The body naturally responds. But the mind does not wrap a story around it. If a sensation of pain arises in the knee, it is felt, it burns, but it is not turned into a tragedy. It is just a temporary heat in a joint. It is observed, and then it is allowed to pass. Everything is allowed to rise and fall without interference. The world becomes a fluid, shifting display of energy, and you are the quiet space in which the display occurs. This is the reality hiding beneath every single ordinary day, beneath the arguments, beneath the scrolling screens, beneath the endless, grinding anxiety. There is this pristine, untouched silence. It is not something you have to build. It is not something you have to earn through exhausting discipline. It is simply what remains when you stop covering it up. It is what is left when you stop demanding that the world look the way you want it to look. When you finally surrender to exactly what is. A room, a chair, a breath moving in, a breath moving out. The absolute, terrifying, beautiful simplicity of being awake. You do not need to figure it out. You do not need to explain it to anyone. You just need to open the eyes. And finally, truly, look.